Hi, Analisa 6 here with the Sober Curator and the Lady of Leisure to bring you the March 2024 horoscope for the zodiac sign of Aries for sun and rising placements. Hi, Aries. We're almost to your birthday season. We're still currently in Pisces season, so we're going to start out. We're going to talk a lot about Pisces energy in these horoscopes because we've got a lot of energy in Pisces for the month of March. And it's just, yeah, it's impacting all of us in different ways. But for you, Aries, the area that Pisces affects in the Aries horoscope is the 12th house of the chart. Pisces rules the 12th house, and it's the area of the chart that represents the subconscious, secrets. A lot of astrologers talk about this being the area of the chart where secrets live. I personally think of this area more as where our subconscious and imagination lives. It's also said to be the area that we're in before we are birthed into the world and the place that we go to after we leave this realm. So, you know, the ether, the imaginal, the it's not considered the underworld in the same way that we think of Scorpio eighth house energy, but it's considered to be that ethereal place where those the cosmic mind, maybe the cosmic to me it's just automatically I think of love, like where cosmic love lives, where anything's possible, the dream world, you know, that's where the 12th house is. And so we have a lot of energy in that area of the chart affecting all of us. And for Aries, you know, it's really emphasized in that place. And so we start out March with the sun in Pisces, we have Mercury in Pisces, and we have Saturn in Pisces. And so and Neptune has been in Pisces for quite a while now too. So we have four celestial bodies hitting that area of the horoscope. And so dreams are emphasized. Dreams as in when you go to sleep dreams. There's also potentially your fantasy of what your life could be is emphasized right now. The thing about Pisces energy that's really challenging for all of us right now, especially with Mercury being in detriment in Pisces during this time, is that it's hard for us to discern what's true and what's real versus what is imagined or desired, I guess. And so when we're having a lot of heavy Piscean energy, it's really easy for us to be delusional. Like delusional energy lives in the Pisces realm. It's also really easy for us to fall for deceptions or illusions for that reason. And it's also Mercury in Pisces is a signature of lying or being deceptive, not seeing things for as they are. And so there's that energy's heightened right now. I I know a lot of Leos who are liars, so I don't, or Leo dominant people who are liars. So I'm not saying that Leos are honest people, but I feel like a Leo trait is being loyal and honest to an extent. At least it is for me. Maybe there's other things in my chart that make me want to be more that way. I'm not sure, but honesty is something that's really valuable to me. Transparency, authenticity, integrity, like those are all values that are really important to me. And I think that one of the things that's hard is that Pisces, like Mercury in Pisces specifically, it can be the opposite. It can be very deceptive, and it can also try to bend the truth or bend reality to fit whatever fantasy or illusion it wants to have. And I'm only bringing this up just because it's an energy that we're all under during this time, not just Aries, but the area of the chart that it's hitting for Aries, it being in the area that Pisces rules, you're living kind of more in this foggy place right now where it's hard to decipher what is your feelings and your fantasies and your illusions about things versus what's tangible and what's actually happening or what's really there. So projecting is really possible during this time because your feelings and kind of your subconscious is really running the show right now. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because we have a lot of opportunity when we're under this influence to do deep work. So one of the tarot cards that I brought up in the astrology forecast video, the general one, was the moon card. The moon card in the tarot is ruled by the moon in Pisces. And so when we're going through the moon card kind of energy, it's a really confusing time for us. And we really have to go deep into the subconscious and work on bringing stuff from the subconscious up to the surface that maybe is unresolved, unhealed, unhealed trauma, or maybe even unhealed dream, or not unhealed, but unrealized dreams or potentials. And so it's a good time for you during this beginning of the month to really check in with yourself and kind of figure out like what is hidden that needs to be uncovered, essentially. These are also transits like having Saturn conjunct the sun in this area at the start of the month. It's also energy that lends itself towards depression. And so Saturn sun transits always kind of do that. But in Pisces, it can feel really heavy. It's really common for people to have bouts of depression that could lead towards suicidal ideation. It's common during these transits for people to relapse from substance abuse. I am in recovery, and these go on the Sober Curator. So if you're watching them from the Sober Curator, you're probably in recovery or sober curious. And these transits, having Saturn, the Sun, Mercury, Neptune in this 12th house place for Aries can be a really, it can be an energy that can trigger a lot of things to cause you to potentially want to relapse or go back to a space from the past. It can also bring up stuff in a way that makes you really want to work harder on your recovery if you're actively doing that. So I'm not trying to say like every Aries that has these transits is going to relapse or go into some space like that. Not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that those memories or those feelings or those triggers could come up during this time. And if you don't have the tools, it could trigger you into wanting to relapse. If you do have the tools, it's good for you to rely on those tools and just get even stronger and work harder and further into your recovery journey. On a more positive, oh, my dog just farted really loud, and I don't know if it picked up on the YouTube video. He drank water, choked on it, and then farted. And this is like a common this is a common occurrence in my house. So it's possible that you guys heard Bam Bam's fart. If it was my fart, I totally would have admitted it. I promise. It's Bam Bam's fart. I know, he just ate dinner too. So anyways, the more positive attributes of these Pisces transits that are happening for Aries is the ability to tap into the imagination and also spirituality. So this is a really positive time to get serious about your spirituality and your spiritual practices. Meditation is really positive. Dream work is really positive. When I say dream work, I mean deciphering dreams. So if you're having really crazy dreams and you're remembering them, this is a really powerful time to decode them. So looking up the like certain meanings of like animals or totems that are coming up in your dreams. Carl Jung has a book called Dreams that I've had in my ether since I was a teenager. And it's really positive in terms of helping us figure out what the hidden meanings are in the dream. And it's really fun. I also love using the tarot in dream interpretation too. That can be really fun. I think my dog wants to come up here. You want to come up here, Ben? Come here. Let's say hi to everybody. I'm gonna say hi to all the Aries people watching this and tell everybody that it was indeed your fart. You did fart. My old man Bammers. He's a Cancer with a Sagittarius moon. Sure. Anyways, spirituality and also artistic pursuits are really positive for Aries right now, having all of these placements going on. If you are feeling like you're inclined to relapse or you're having suicidal thoughts, it is really important for you to, obviously look for resources and help. And I know on the Sober Curator, there's a whole page of just various resources on there. So feel free to reach out if you need any of those, but they're on the sobercurator.com as well. We also start out March, Pisces season. We start out March with Venus and Mars conjunct in Aquarius, not in an exact conjunction, but they're within an orb of influence. And the area of the chart that this hits for the Aries horoscope is the area that has to do with friendships and group associations. Venus here really makes us want to connect with friends. We want to be social and even getting involved in our community. Venus in Aquarius in the 11th house wants to be involved in community, wants to do some kind of activism or volunteer work or get involved in an organization in some kind of positive way. It wants to feel connection. And friendship circles, wants to be social, wants to feel like it has a good social network. Mars here, however, brings in a little bit more conflict. And so we could see there's some conflict or tension within the group dynamic that maybe we're wanting to be a part of. So that's something to kind of watch out for. Pluto also entered Aquarius officially at the beginning of the year. And so we do have Pluto now in this area of the Aquarius horoscope. And wherever Pluto is, Pluto, the kind of tagline for Pluto that I always like to use, I can't remember who gave it to me, but or where I read it, but it's pain into power. And so wherever Pluto is we might go through some turmoil in life. We might experience a lot of deep work on ourselves. So for Aries, community, the way that we connect with friends and community, our friendship circles, our relationships with other people, we're experiencing some deep pain around this, but it's going to lead us towards deep transformational healing and change essentially. And so we might be changing our especially with Venus here, we might be changing something about our values. We might be changing the social circles that we want to be a part of or who we want to surround ourselves with. And you might not be in that change yet. You might be, you might not be, but either way, that change is going to be occurring. You're going to be feeling it in a deep way, and it might happen in ways that feel painful to you. Pluto too has a relationship to the past and our past life karma. And so whenever Pluto is in the mix and kicking up dust for us, there's something from our past life karma that we're healing and that we're working through in this deeper, bigger way. So community and those types of things are a big focus starting the month out for Aries. So those are big themes for you in March. Let's see, what else do we have here going on? So later on throughout let's talk about the nodal axis. So the other thing that's happening for Aries before we get into some of the other transits happening throughout the month is we start out March with the nodal axis in Aries and Libra, which it's been in for a while now, but the north node is in your sign of Aries and it's conjunct Chiron. And that's going to be a big influence over this month, is that Chiron north node energy. And the area that that's hitting in the Aries horoscope is the area that has to do with identity. And so Aries rules the identity. It rules the first house of identity. It represents a lot of themes around our personal relationship to self and how we identify with ourselves to ourselves. So there's other areas of the chart that have to do with how we're identifying with ourselves to other people. This first house energy with Aries is more about what is our personal relationship to self? What is our personal relationship to our identity? Recently, when I was working with my therapist, I was having a really hard time wrapping my head around some stuff that I was going through in terms of my relationship to home, like what made me feel at home. And I had put a lot of other things outside of myself as my home. Like my house is my home, my partner is my home. Like these things that are outside of myself is where I feel home. And so much of my life was changing in that way. And I was like, how am I going to feel home again? I've worked so hard to feel this sense of home, and now all of that's being ripped away from me. How do I feel that way? And my therapist was like, well, I want you to make a list of all the different things that have to do with you that could give you this feeling. And I thought it was going to be really hard, because for so long I'd been searching for this feeling of home. And when I had finally found it, like I didn't want to lose that. And here I was losing it. And she was like, well, we have to work on you being your home. We have to work on you feeling that way in yourself. And that was a really hard concept for me because I've never felt that way in myself. I have a lot of issues with my body, like body dysmorphia. I've had a lot of health issues that have made me really upset and angry with my body. I'm really critical of how I look. Like I feel like I have a lot of trauma around being bullied and made fun of as a kid that makes me really hypercritical of myself. And just, all kinds of stuff like that. So my relationship to self has been wounded a lot in my life. And there's like race stuff in that, like I'm mixed race. And so I experienced a lot of covert racism growing up because even though I'm white passing, I don't identify as white in the sense that I'm half Mexican. And so I get a lot of like, what are you? And like a lot of kids doing that. I get tan like really easily. And where I grew up, it was everybody thought it was weird that I was tan, because I'm technically Mexican. So it's like I'm white passing, but like my skin turns brown in the sun, and I went to school with a lot of kids that, thought that was weird. And I got talked to and treated in a way that was derogatory. And I didn't want to learn Spanish because of that, so it's like now I wish I knew Spanish, and I don't know Spanish because when my parents and my family tried to teach me that stuff, I rejected it. So My relationship to self, very wounded. And Chiron is the wounded healer. Chiron, that north node, wants us to heal, like wants us to go deep within and ask ourselves, like, what do we need to heal in our relationship to self? So when I was working with my therapist on kind of like figuring out what are these ways that I can heal my relationship to self, and I made this list, there's all these things that I never equated with feeling at home in myself. And part of that was how I put myself together. So one of the big things that came up for me was adornment, jewelry, makeup, how I do my hair, the clothes that I wear, and tattoos, piercings, tattoos, that kind of stuff. Like adornment was a huge one for me in terms of feeling at home in myself. And it's so simple, it's such a simple thing. And so when I started just putting words to those things that I was doing that helped me feel that way, it actually started to make me feel more in love with myself and more at home in myself. And I think I had this thought process that, like, in order to feel that way in myself, I had to have some kind of thing figured out, or I had to be like a certain weight, or um, I had to love myself in some version of myself that I didn't actually love in order to love myself, if that makes sense. Like I felt guilty that like wearing makeup and adorning myself made me feel more in love with myself. Like there was something wrong with that. And now I'm kind of like, oh no, that's part of loving myself. That's part of feeling at home in myself. It's like decorating your home, but your body, yourself. So that's like one version. Like I'm just giving that as like a long example of like the Chiron and Aries journey that we're all under. But for Aries people specifically, your chart is being influenced the most right now by this Chiron and Aries journey conjunct the North Node. Who are you? What is your relationship to self? I talk about this because even though you've been under this influence for a minute already, the eclipses that we're having are going to be hitting this point, and this is a big energy this year. And so we're all under it, but it's really hitting you in that identity sector. You might be feeling like you're having an identity crisis, and it's okay. It's all right. You're here to find yourself right now. You're here to work on that. I think that the other part of this I shared in the astrology forecast is that your relationships are going to be deeply affected by this. So the South Node is in Libra, and Libra rules partnership and relationship, and where that's hitting in the Aries chart is the relationship house. And so you're very much being pulled into yourself right now. Your relationships are not getting as much attention because you have so much emphasis on what you need right now. And that's okay. That's what you're supposed to be doing right now. You're supposed to be focusing on what you need right now as an individual. But you do need to pay attention to the fact that you do want community, you do want friendship, you do, at some point you're going to want to come back around and experience some partnership. So you do really want to be mindful with the level of selfishness that you have and how it's affecting your relationships. There's nothing wrong with needing to be self-oriented. You're supported in doing that, but sometimes if we don't allow that to be more balanced, then other things suffer, and we can look back and kind of go, oh, I wish I would have handled that in a different way, or, oh, that didn't need to suffer so much. So I think that there's just kind of that caution, because you're being pulled so heavily into this other direction. But again, like cosmically, that's where you're supposed to be right now. So, you got to lean into where you're being pulled to some extent. The guidance that I always have for people with this stuff is that we're always trying to integrate polarities. So if we've spent too much time somewhere, then inadvertently we're going to get pushed into the opposite to balance it out. But we don't want to be in a state where we're constantly doing this. It's like the addict chasing the high. We chase the high, and then what happens? The pendulum swings super far the other way, and then we're super low. We want to learn how to balance things out and integrate them. How do you search for autonomy and individuation without completely abandoning what you've learned about relationship and partnership? How do you balance those two things out? And that's the nodes, the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra. You're learning how to integrate that. So maybe there's been too much codependence over here. It's time to learn how to integrate more autonomy. And the stars are allowing you to do that. They're helping you with that. And then you have Venus and Mars here helping you build some community, and also Pluto helping you redefine community. So there's a lot going on there. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the other planetary shifts that are going to happen as the month goes on. So Mercury is going to enter Aries on the 9th. And when Mercury enters Aries, it's going to be entering that area of identity, the first house. And so here, again, there's a lot of emphasis on the self and the relationship to the self. And with Mercury, Mercury rules the mind. So this also has a lot to do with your perspective. What is your perspective on yourself and on your identity? One of the things about Mercury and Aries that's not always positive is that sometimes we can get really indignant on our point of view being the right one or the only one. And Aries being cardinal fire, being that independent energy, it's really common for people with Mercury and Aries to be really one-track mind and linear. Aries also has a really strong need for control and dominance in certain situations. And with Mars being that ruler of Mercury during this, that can be really volatile and it can be really reactive. And so there is a check yourself before you wreck yourself theme going on with Mercury and Aries. It's fighting energy, it's reactive energy. On the plus side, if you've been needing more of a confidence boost, this could help you out with that a lot. So again, it's just that you have to be mindful, with this. It can be really empowering for you because maybe you start to get really clear on exactly what you want and the action that you need to take. Mercury is going to be in Aries until May because we have Mercury stationing retrograde on April Fool's Day. So you're going to have Mercury in your identity house for a long time. This is going to be an inward journey, and you just need to be really mindful on who you Aries out on because there's a lot of hot fire behind your words and behind your actions, and you're very self-focused right now. And again, you're supported in that, but it's still just because the energy is there doesn't mean that you need to act on it in a reactive way. It's still important that you try to slow things down and get clear on what it is that's really going on, because we still have a lot of Piscean energy that's making things not clear. That combination of Pisces, Aries energy, I love when it comes to getting a lot of creative projects done, getting clear about the dream or what we envision. But when it comes to being clear on things in another way, it can be it's very emotional. It's very reactive and very emotional. So it can be hard for us to really know what's good for us, because we're just kind of reacting on how we feel about something. And I talk about this in the astrology forecast, but sometimes deciphering our gut from our trauma mind can be hard. Am I just having anxiety because I'm afraid of something and so I'm reacting from that? Or am I listening to my gut? And then, like that whole kind of conflict can be there. So I'm hoping that for a lot of us, this is an opportunity to learn kind of more how to get clear on those things. But there is a lot of opportunity for us to fumble and flail in some of these dynamics. So it's a little bit messy. I'm not gonna lie, it's a messy energy, but it's powerful. It's the spiritual aspect of it is really powerful, and there's a lot of positivity in us growing. But it's just, I think that there's going to be a lot of hard growth for a lot of us, learning things the hard way. The other thing that happens shortly after that is that we have Venus entering Pisces around the 12th. And so Venus is going to enter that area of the chart that we spent so much time talking about in the beginning, the 12th house area of the Aries horoscope, where, dreams are emphasized, spirituality, the subconscious. And Venus wants to heal. She wants to come in and connect. She's exalted in Pisces. She does really well in Pisces. It's so good for us for subconscious healing, subconscious work, and also for the imagination to open up and be more artistic and creative. But there is a little bit of a pleasure seeking energy here. So you might want to escape into the fantasy rather than, what you should be doing with your time. So balancing it out, like do things that feel good, do things that enhance your creativity and your connection to spirit. But also it's important that you work on staying grounded too, because this is a very ungrounding energy for Aries. There's not a lot grounding us in this time period right now. We also, around the time that Venus is entering Pisces, right before Venus enters Pisces, we have our new moon on the 10th. So we're going to have a new moon at 20 degrees Pisces on March 10th. And again, this is hitting the area of the chart for Aries that is the subconscious. I'm just repeating this over and over again. Setting intentions, is really positive during this time around things that you want to heal from the past. This area of the chart has a lot to do with past life karma. So this is also a really good time if you're feeling like there's residual unresolved business in your ether, whether it's from your past in this life or a past life. This is a positive time to be doing some meditations around how you can heal and channel some of that into something positive for yourself. Again, like if you're in recovery or you struggle with addiction or suicidal ideation, this is a time where a lot of that stuff could be coming up. So working, with spiritual healers or therapists or somatic therapists, people that are good at helping you heal those things from a deep level, doing like sound baths, that type of stuff. It's all really positive during this March 10th time period. Let's see, what else do we have here? So after that, because we're going to have Jupiter in Taurus for the whole month. Saturn is going to be in Pisces for the whole month. Uranus is in Taurus. Like Taurus energy, where it's getting hit with Jupiter, Uranus in the Aries horoscope for this whole time, it's finances. Like you're going to have a lot of instability with money. There's a lot of opportunity for money, but there's a lot of opportunity for it to go just as fast as it's come. And it's very ungrounding time for that. Like it's just very ungrounding for all of us right now, but especially for Aries. The other thing that's going on, let's see, we've got March 25th is when the full moon happens. It's a lunar eclipse. And I'm trying to see if, so right before our lunar eclipse, Mars will enter Pisces, and Mars is going to enter that area again, the 12th house, the subconscious. And Mars here, we start to, Mars in the 12th house has a signature of repressed rage, repressed anger. So it's not necessarily coming out yet, but we're experiencing the feelings around it. And maybe it starts to bubble up to a point where we are either, if we're conscious of it, if we're directly working through it, we can start to do a lot of deep healing somatically around that. If we're leaning into the suppressing of it, it's going to come out in other ways and affect things in our life negatively, including our health. So that's something to be mindful of. If you've got repressed rage or anger, how are you dealing with it? How are you working on this deeper subconscious stuff that's being hit right now? Therapy, spiritual healers, astrologers, astrologers are good people to talk to during this stuff, because if you get a personal birth chart reading, we can see, kind of where some of this stuff stems from, whether it's childhood or a relationship or things like that. So you're very much encouraged as an Aries person right now to work with people that can help you heal some of these deeper rooted things. Because, there's a lot emotionally coming up during this time that's going to impact the choices that you make moving forward in your life. So it's good to have some people there to support you and having community in that way. The 25th is when we have our full moon lunar eclipse in Libra. And so, I'm sorry, I missed entering Aries season first. So on the 19th, we enter Aries season. So scale back. We get to the spring equinox, and then it's your birth month, your time to shine. So happy birthday, Aries. So that's on March 19th. And then March 25th, we're going to have our lunar eclipse in Libra, and it's at 5 degrees Libra. And again, the sun's going to be in Aries. The moon's going to be opposite in the 7th house, in the house of relationships. And so that's the theme, for this lunar eclipse is relationships and autonomy, identity. Who am I versus who are you? How do I make myself feel good about myself and have a strong relationship with myself, while also having a strong partnership or a strong relationship with others without it compromising who I am and who I need to be in myself? Lunar eclipses are portals for energy. Full moons are a time of releasing and letting go, as well as calling things in and manifesting. A lot of astrologers will advise to not do any kind of rituals or manifestation work during this time, because they say the energy is too volatile and too intense. I'm not of that ilk. I don't believe in that at all. But I would say trust your gut with that one. Do what you want, and like that's in alignment for you. But this is a powerful energy for Aries in the sense that it is shining a big light on your identity and your relationships. And then the energy of a eclipse portal is said to influence our lives for the next 6 months. So whatever is happening on March 25th that kind of comes into the ether, we're going to be experiencing kind of those themes over the next 6 months. So that's something that's really important to pay attention to, especially since this is happening in your season, your sign, and influencing your chart in such an extreme way. Let's see what else is there going on that we should touch on for, we talked about Mars entering Pisces. I guess that's about it. Mercury is going to enter its shadow period. It looks like for the retrograde around the 22nd. I guess we could even say the 20th of March. So around the time that, you know, the sun enters Aries, Mercury is going to be entering its shadow period for the retrograde. So we're going to have a Mercury retrograde in Aries starting on the 1st of April. We'll be in the shadow period around the 20th. And it's going to be in your sign. So it's going to be hitting you the most. And your communication, again, check yourself before you wreck yourself in March. There's a lot of opportunity for you to put your foot in your mouth and be overtly reactive, self-oriented in a way that could hurt others. But again, like, you're supposed to be really working on that autonomy and that identity. These are things you're supposed to be working on. You know, how do you use your Aries strengths in the most constructive way? And how do you learn from the shadow qualities of Aries to grow and evolve beyond them? You know, I think that Aries energy is some of my favorite energy, but it can be really destructive when it's not in its power in the right way. And so we're all going to be learning the lessons of Aries, Mercury retrograde in Aries. And it's going to affect the fire signs the most, and it's going to affect you, Aries, the most. And so it's an opportunity for you to really reflect. Mercury is about reflection, reflect, review, correct, even maybe, and get clear on what's working, what's not working, what's empowering, and what, you know, Mercury and Aries can be a little dominating, you know. So it's when is that working versus when is it not? You know, we're all going to be working on that in ourselves, but especially those of us that have strong Aries placements, it's going to be a lot. I wish that I could say that our entry into your season was smooth, but it's not. I'm excited for Aries energy, just in the sense that it gets things moving, but we still have so much in Pisces that is making things foggy for us, that the clarity that Aries sometimes can lend itself isn't quite there. We've got a lot of emotional reactivity going on for the month ahead. So slow it down as best you can and try to get clear on the gut versus the emotional reaction. It's hard sometimes to know the difference until we're in it. The lighting in here. All right, I'm going to let you go. If you'd like to book a reading with me, you can find me at theladyofleisure.com, or you can email me at analisa6@ladyofleisure.com. I'm also on the Sober Curator, and feel free to leave a comment if you liked this video. Hit the like, subscribe if you want to get notified on when I post these, and I will see you all next month. Happy birthday.